How do you balance out an emotional week with how competitive of a week it is? It's a big week for you either way.
Well, I think it's good. We gave the guys off yesterday. We'll be back on the floor today and tomorrow, off again on Thursday. So the bye week this week gives you a chance to kind of catch your breath, get back to some fundamental things on the floor, allow the guys to kind of recover mentally and physically a little bit as we get into the last weekend of the season, and then after that, the postseason.
I don't know if it matters at this point, but is there any hope? A lot of teams are still playing this week that maybe you'll be a little bit fresher, especially when you head to Fort Worth in a week and a half or so?
Yeah, I don't know if I've thought about it in any type of, strategic way, but I think every team gets a couple bye weeks, or you get that. I think you get 2 of them in American Conference play, and when you get them, you hope you recharge a little bit mentally and physically, and so whenever they come, you try to take advantage of that. So it's a balance, because it's how much can you recharge and reset, but also it's an opportunity to get on the practice court for extended days and get back to some of those like fundamental things that you really want to work on that maybe you don't get to as much when you're just kind of in that rhythm of practice game.
Looking at the turnovers against Memphis, when you poured through the film, was there anything definable that you can kind of definitely work on and attack this week? Not that you'll dive into it in depth, but is there something that you can, as a staff, you guys as a whole, define and can take this week and try to make sure that that 20-plus turnover type of performance doesn't happen the rest of the way here?
Yeah, certainly there's some things you're going to look at the film, and to be honest, they were the same things we were talking about in timeout and halftime, because it's pretty clear, right? I mean, it's being really strong with the ball on the drive, being strong with the ball, dribbling in traffic, being strong with the ball in a double team, not, getting up high and getting off balance, but kind of embracing a double or not accepting a double. It's meeting a pass, like meeting that last 2, 3, 4 feet of a pass, when you're meeting a pass in traffic or when another team is pressing. It's catching the ball with 2 hands. It's when you don't have the ball, getting to the right spot on the floor to create outlets or create opportunities for your team to attack. And, so it wasn't like we turned it over one way 22 times. We turned it over a host of different ways. But it's those very basic fundamental details of how you attack pressure, how you strong with the ball, how you do your job when you don't have the ball, that we talk about and work on all the time. But yet this week gives you a chance to get back to some of those type of things for sure, and we'll certainly address them on the tape. It's interesting that this hasn't been a team that you look down and go, we have a turnover problem, or we have a problem taking care of the ball. In fact, most of the time it's the opposite. We do a nice job of taking care of the basketball over the course of the season. So I don't think that it's as much us. I think you got to look down and give Memphis credit first and foremost. I mean, they did a phenomenal job of creating chaos and making it hectic and taking us out of a rhythm, and then we have to do a much better job of, in those moments, taking care of the ball. But big picture, that this team values the ball for the most part throughout this season.
COVID year has made senior day a little less cut and dry, I guess, than it used to be. Do you know for sure who's participating in the senior day activities, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's the 3 guys that have their eligibility, that they have no eligibility left, in Rob Vennessy, Kalua Zekbe, and then David DeJulius. I think that's the way it makes sense to approach it, given these times. It's the guys that have no more eligibility and have no more opportunity to come back and put that jersey on, and let's recognize them, that last time they'll be on the floor at Fifth Third.
You mentioned those 3 guys there. 2 of them just transferred in this season for their first season here at the University of Cincinnati. Dave, a guy who's been here 3 years, has left his mark on the program. What are you expecting from the fans to give to those 3 guys come Sunday?
Yeah, certainly you're going to honor, and it's one of the great things about this program is the support and the people and the fans here. You guys know that I've said it numerous times now. I know they'll honor those three guys, and I know that they'll honor David Ajulius in a really special way. What he's meant to this program over the last 3 years, it's hard to describe in words, and it's hard to quantify in just his play. You know, he's been here through some transition and some turmoil. He's improved during that time as a player. He's tried to keep things together. He's been incredibly prideful and competitive to put that jersey on. And I believe people not only appreciate that, but they have respect and admiration for that. The other thing that I think maybe doesn't get publicized enough, but people that have come into contact are certainly aware, is David's really embraced impacting this community, this campus community, this surrounding community. Again, who he's meant. I get voicemails and emails. It feels like weekly about things that he's done that he wasn't told to do. Showing up at an elementary school to work with kids, or showing. I mean, it's incredible some of the impact he's had off the floor by who he is in the position he's in, and I think our fans know that about him, and I think they'll come out and support him in a way that he deserves to be supported.
Before you got here, he opted out, then he came back, then you had him, and then last year he announces he's coming back. I'm sure you guys met. What was the key selling point that you did to keep him here?
Yeah, I don't believe David was in the portal when I got the job here, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he was.
He'd come back for the tournament.
Oh, you mean during the season before?
Yeah,
I got
during
here?
the pandemic, he opted out like three
so
games.
I think it was actually very, very simple. The day that I arrived here, I met with the team. There weren't many, but the guys that were here. And, then I met individually with those guys as soon as we met as a team. And David was one of the first guys I sat down with. And it was just a very honest and direct conversation. I was honest with him that, obviously knew who he was and had watched a little bit of tape, but that I wasn't extremely familiar with him as a player, so I wasn't going to tell him things that I didn't know yet, but that I was going to go watch some more film, and I was going to try to give him a better idea where I think he'd fit in. But he needed to give me, a little bit of time, because I didn't want to be dishonest with him. I told him a little bit about where I wanted to go as a program and what I wanted out of guards, and that his reputation as a competitor and things of that nature, that I thought it would make some sense, but that I needed some time. And he asked some questions, and I reached out to some of the people in his life that matter to him, and we met again and talked in some more detail, and I think it made sense for both of us to move forward. And boy, am I glad that we both did. It's been a joy, and I don't want to do too much reflecting because it ain't over yet. We still got quite a bit of basketball to play.
We've talked about Kalu and kind of him battling back, but maybe Rob more specifically, how bittersweet is Sunday going to be for a guy who came here but never really had a chance, it felt like, because of injuries, to ingrain himself, I guess, with the community and maybe more so than the team behind closed doors.
Yeah, it's bittersweet, no doubt about it. There's no way to make it sound better than it is, because I think that Rob is a guy that, had he had the opportunity to get out there and compete more in front of our fans in this building, I think people would have really related well to how he approached the game and what he was about, because he was about all the little dirty winning stuff that you got to do to be successful. And we got to see that a lot more than our fans did, because we had him in quite a few practices, but certainly nobody got to see that enough. That said, his attitude and his approach and how he worked to kind of get back to find a way to help this team with a broken foot, and then was able to do that there for a couple games. As a coach, that's something I just have great respect and admiration for. So I hope he gets a nice ovation, but certainly understand that people didn't get to see everything that we got to see, and we didn't get to see as much as we'd like to see as coaches either.
John Newman, obviously been on the men for the majority, like the entirety of the season. Is he a player that you guys as a staff are going to try to keep around and would like to see him be a part of the program going in the Big 12?
I think so, yeah. I think that's where his head's at. He's not able to. He got cleared to do some activity, nothing live or full speed, and just he's not ready to push it to the level to play full speed college basketball, but seems to be on a good pace of recovery. And there's some work to be done from an NCAA standpoint to get that extra year. We'll seek to do that. He wants to do that. I think it's the only right that the NCAA clears him. But there's a process that you have to go through, and we'll go through that process. But I think big picture, all parties are thinking along those lines.
It's a little more broad, but next year you could have a couple 4-5-year guys in the same situation. Senior day used to be a 4-year guy, and people had lived and died with everything that they did, see the kids progress and everything, and it was a big deal. Are just college basketball in general, or are we getting to the point where we're not going to see a whole bunch of the 4-year guys just based on the portal and the way the game has changed?
Well, we're certainly not going to see it to the same extent we did years ago, right, during my playing days, and even more so before that. It's not going to be as common based on all the changes that have happened in our game. But you're still going to have it, and I think it maybe becomes even more special when you do, or when you have somebody like David DeJulius that is invested over multiple years, especially through transition and turmoil and things of that nature. So I think it's going to be more rare, but I think it's pretty special when you do have those rare occasions.
2 more.
Have you had conversations with 4- and 5-year guys who still have that bonus year eligibility about coming back, and that's why they're not participating? Or are you just kind of like, we're just going to stick with the players who definitely can't come back next season in terms of senior day stuff?
Yeah, I think the approach with guys that have eligibility is we'll talk after the year. We're just going to get through the year. It's this up and down, emotional, and all that kind of stuff. And that was the approach last year. It'll be the approach this year. We'll sit down. Of course, those guys know I want them back. I think people that follow our program and support our program want them back. I think deep down they want to be back. But to get into that right now just takes away from what's most important, which is trying to win on Sunday, and trying to get better in practice today. And that's the nature of this profession, or this college basketball. It's changed in a lot of ways. We got to try to eliminate distractions and stay focused and that type of thing. And to me, the best way to do that is to stay focused. We can recognize in our heart that those are the things that we want, but let's sit down and have those conversations after the season's over, and then we'll figure it out individually from there. But if anybody's wondering, I want them back. Yeah, absolutely. And I know our fan base does too. And I believe those kids want to be here. They love Cincinnati. You can tell by the way they approach it that they have pride in wanting to play here and be here. But at the same point, trying to get into all that this time of year, as good as that is from a news cycle standpoint and interest, it just takes away from what we're trying to do as a team, and that's just get ready to win a game, and we can worry about what's next after we get to the end of the year.
Point guards make pretty good coaches. Is that something you could see Dave? I mean, Dave's probably going to try and play some, but is he a future coach?
I don't know if I want, that type of pain for David. I'm just being funny. David's got basketball ahead of him right now. Playing basketball ahead of him. He's put himself in position to go play professional basketball, and I think he'll be extremely successful doing that. He's also put himself in position to have a lot of opportunities when the ball stops bouncing as a player, by the way he's valued his education, some of the ways he's tried to learn about business and things that happen. I mean, he's a very inquisitive young person. He is going to be able to do whatever he wants to do. If coaching is something that he's interested in at that point, he'll be terrific at it. But I'd say that about almost anything, because that's what I think of him as a young man.
Russ, did you have one?
Yeah,
And then I mean,
Coach, obviously, with the way the seedings broke down, you guys are going to have to win 3 games in a row next week to meet your goal this season and punch the NCAA tournament ticket. seeing as that's obviously a much different intensity, playing 3 games in 3 days than the normal 2 games per week, does anything change for you guys practice intensity wise, minutes wise?
For the conference tournament.
Just for the next 10-day stretch, do you guys change anything schedule wise, intensity wise, practice wise, or is it kind of just keeping that normal rhythm and not trying to change what you guys have been doing all season?
Well, yeah, this week, I mean, we have a pretty good intensity to our practices in general. No, it's about being who we are every day, trying to get better every day, taking it one day at a time. And I probably won't think about the conference tournament until after the game on Sunday. In fairness, it's going to be about trying to win on Sunday first. And then after that, we can think about how we'll prepare for the conference tournament and that type of thing. And, fortunately, I don't know, I can't even keep track anymore how many years I've been a head coach, but every year I've been a head coach, I've played in a conference tournament. Every conference tournament I've ever played in was an opportunity to play either 3 or 4 games in 3 or 4 days. So this isn't something that is unfamiliar and how to prepare a team, going into a conference tournament week. But that's something I don't even want to think about and take my head there now, and it's something we'll talk about next week.